Julio Quintana. Hi.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. I just saw your movie last night and loved it. All
Awesome.
right. So, yeah, Paulie and I have been talking about the film. Both of us liked it a lot. Let me just ask you the basic question. How did you come about? How did you become a part of this film?
Well, yeah, I directed my last movie was a true story called Blue Miracle, and it was by the same producers. That was brought to me by Javier Chapa and Ben Howard, and um, Javier he was connected with this book. It was called Mustang Miracle, which was that told the story of these young caddies who, I guess you guys already talked about this. Everybody knows what this movie's about already.
Yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, so he brought it to me, and after making Blue Miracle, he thought it made sense to collaborate on this one as well. I mean, to be honest, I said just based on the log line, I said no, we just kind of did that. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I want to make another inspiring sports story or whatever it is that. And so I really actually kind of hesitated for a while. I didn't even read it for a little bit, and then after a while, I dug into it, and I realized, like, man, this is actually a pretty compelling story. It's pretty emotional. My family's from Cuba, my wife's from Colombia, so like a lot of the identity stuff about being a Latino in the U.S. and all that kind of resonated with me. So yeah, I ended up just kind of falling in love with the story. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and that's how I came on board.
Yeah, well, one of the things, just to talk about the kind of the race relations aspect of the story, is that it takes place in 1955, and I feel like what struck me, and this theme is throughout the whole film, but it does discuss that issue of fitting in, being new to not necessarily new to the country, but being able to walk through the door into a room that was predominantly, run by white people, to phrase it plainly. I feel like it's what stuck out was the contrast of how that presented itself in 1955 versus how it would present itself today. Was that something that kind of stuck out to you in the story?
Yeah. I mean, it was. I thought it was important to me, but a lot of times, sometimes people say, like there's things happen in 1950s and nothing's changed, and I was like, oh, come on, man, like that's actually not. That's like kind of doing a disservice to a lot of the people that opened doors for us. People my grandparents' generation, my parents' generation, they opened a lot of doors. So I felt like for me, when I was reading what these guys directly went through. It really gave me a sense of gratitude, for guys like Cheech's generation. Cheech Marin is in the movie, and he pioneered a bunch of stuff. He opened up a bunch of doors so that guys like in my generation could have more opportunities. But that being said, I was really surprised. I've been surprised just traveling around the country and traveling around, certainly in South Texas with the movie. I mean, how many people my age came up to me and they were like, "Man, that happened to me in 1992, where after a golf tournament, I was turned away from a diner." Stuff like that, where you're like, so my particular experience, being born in California and then living in Houston, Texas. Just because I didn't encounter some of those particular things doesn't mean it wasn't still happening, as I was growing up. So it's a complicated issue. I think that we tried to treat it as fairly as we could, and really try to show that there are real issues that need to be overcome. But what I liked about the story was that I felt like these young guys in real life, the real guys, they just like literally went out and built their own course, and they didn't really make any excuses, and they actually made opportunities for themselves, which was pretty inspiring for me, because that's sort of what even on this movie we've had to do that. Like the Hollywood didn't think there was a market for this story, and so we just had to raise money on our own and go make it and put it out there and do this kind of any kind of grassroots marketing we can do is, and so it really feels like we're still kind of doing that sort of thing. So I found their story really, really inspiring.
Yeah, can you talk about that a bit? We've been telling a lot of independent filmmakers that it seems like the Hollywood system, the business model is breaking down, and that you kind of have to go on in your own direction. The long game is in theaters. I saw it at my local AMC. It's playing at several of my AMCs. How did you approach the distribution, and how did you get it into so many theaters?
Well, so from what it's been explained to me is that basically during COVID, like all of the distribution companies that handle theatrical for the smaller and mid-range movies, a lot of them went under during COVID because the theaters shut down, and then everything went to streaming, and then and streamers were just cutting huge checks for everything, and then in the last couple of years, the streamers started collapsing, and now they're not doing that anymore. They're having to be a lot more selective about what they buy. So then there is no buyers. There's no infrastructure right now for smaller independent films like ours. And so what we basically ended up having to do is we went and hired some of the best marketing like teams we could, and we had to raise our own P&A, our print and advertising budget. And so we're putting out the movie independently without a distributor. We're using marketing. We have a good marketing team, but ultimately it's like hitting the pavement at, getting luckily the only advantage we've had luckily is that the theaters are responding to the movie. So we got Regal, Cinemark, and AMC. They responded like as corporations, and they realized that they don't have these kind of movies. That there's a kind of a hole in their programming, and they don't have anything for families. So they got excited about our movie for this particular window. But that's what we're having to do is we're just having to like grind it out on our own without the traditional infrastructure that independent films used to have.
Yeah.
Wow.
And do you think this is kind of the direction going forward, or?
I'm hearing more producers talk about doing this sort of thing. Yeah. Like self-distribution used to be a thing that was like a last ditch resort. You do 20 screens or something, but now it seems like I'm hearing bigger movies, bigger than ours, but not big studio films that are having to do the same approach. And in some ways it's actually been kind of great. Like there's some advantages to it. Like you obviously have less fees when you don't have a distributor involved, so that you're a bigger chunk of the pie that you get per ticket. It's kind of nice to be involved, being involved in all the marketing choices and like having posters run by me and having, there's stuff that's like, it's nice to have more control and input over things. I don't really capitalize on that much because I'm not an expert in marketing, but it's nice to be, included in all those things. So there's some things about it that are cool, and maybe that is the model going forward. I don't know. I think, like you said, the industry is changing so fast that like it's weird because we made Blue Miracle, which was almost the same genre, and it had Dennis Quaid also. And so this one, we thought this would be a slam dunk for Netflix because Netflix told us that it was seen by like 100 million people on their platform over the course of the first year. So we thought this was just obvious. Like, it was better cast. It was, anyway. So we thought it was obvious, but it wasn't. And so we went ahead and made it anyways because we had a lot of interest from Amazon and a couple other platforms. But the industry changes so fast that from the time you start making a movie to the time you're done making it, like the industry has changed. So it's hard to even predict over the course of a 9-month or 1 year period what people are going to be. What's going to be? Like a lot of the executives that we were in contact with like had disappeared. They got fired from their jobs over the course of us making
their
this movie.
turnover.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy situation from our point of view, but I don't know how you plan anything in that regard.
Yeah. This is your second film with Dennis Quaid. Have you developed a relationship with him, or what? He's making some very interesting choices in films lately, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it seems like he just doesn't stop working ever. Like, we even had to we had to send him away in the middle of shooting this movie to go shoot a different movie for a week that came up while we were shooting. He's got an offer to do something else. And it was like too much money to say no, so we had to let him go and reshuffle our schedule around for him and stuff. So he's killing it right now, and I'm happy for him. He's kind of having a little bit of resurgence here. I feel I have a good relationship with him now. Like it's funny because when we did Blue Miracle, he never spoke to me once before he showed up on set. It felt like he was. I don't know if it was just a paycheck or what. Like he didn't know what he was. He just didn't seem like he cared to know me or anything. And so he just showed up on set on the first day. And like he didn't, I remember he had this big monologue on the boat, and he was like, he had a huge monologue with like 5 kids sitting there listening to him, and he goes, the way I like to work is I don't I don't know my lines when I get to set, but I know it by the time we're done filming the scene.
Nice.
Oh no! Oh my god, this is so bad.
I've seen both films, and congratulations, Julio. But to me, you're saying that Dennis Quaid saves Latin America each time. Is that fact?
He saves Latin America.
Listen, he's fantastic. I know you like to start using Jimmy Gonzalez again. Jimmy's great.
Yeah.
This movie is for everyone, not just Latinos. I keep saying that. I love the look and feel of this movie. What did you shoot it on? And talk about, if it's cool, just like the cinematography, the look and feel of this was just everyone. It almost seemed, Alan, we didn't bring this up, was wearing green. Also,
yeah, it's pretty green. Yeah,
it's pretty green. What's
I tend to do that sometimes. Yeah, I fall into a color palette, and I'm really strict about it, and I almost always end up. It takes a few weeks for my the wardrobe department to be like really you really want it to be green again. Mm-hmm. We shot on the Alexa, the full frame Alexa, the Alexa LF, and on the signature primes, the ARRI signature primes. It has. We shoot, if you really want to get in the weeds about it, like I've shot all three of my movies this way with a 135 degree shutter, which is like a little bit faster. It gets rid of a little bit of motion blur, but also the main thing that people probably feel is that the camera's always moving in this. But we shoot,
especially at the end.
Yeah. So we shoot with wide lens. I tend to shoot with wide lenses, and the camera always moving. That's probably the Malick influence on me. That because I kind of, he mentored me. He executive produced, Terrence Malick executive produced my first feature, and so he and Chivo had a huge influence on me. But especially in this movie, it was a way to break up. Like golf's kind of boring to watch if you're not really into it and you don't know what you're, it can be really dry. And so,
but this movie's not boring, guys. Come on.
Well, because I tend, like, I don't even really think of this as a golf movie. It's a character movie. It's about these characters that are using golf as a way to achieve their goals. But so for me, like in my background, I did cinema before I directed my first movie. I did cinematography and music videos and commercials and that sort of thing. So so for me, like the camera style is always a reflection of trying to be a reflection of what the characters are going through. So like, for example, there's a bunch of montages in this movie, probably 5 of them or something. And, like the first montage of the first tournament, they don't know what they're doing. They're very nervous. They're trying to be polite. So then I go on super long lenses on a tripod, no panning, tilting barely. It's all very static and controlled. And each montage, as they get a little bit more confident, a little bit more energy, the camera's, by the end, it's swooping, it's sideways, it's and it's all on beat. It's like a jazz piece I used. So the camera work tries to reflect the storytelling whenever I can. And then yes, it was very green. We kind of color coded the movie to be green for to represent like the affluence of the country club, the white society, the money, the green grass, all that stuff. And then we use reds and yellows to code like the Latino part of town, and their grass is all yellow and dry, which is like which is funny. Like it's a real thing. Like in real life, it's not in the movie, but in real life, like in Del Rio, there's one spring that provides all the water for the whole town, and they built the golf course around that spring. So the golf course had a deal where they get water for free for 99 years, and everybody else has to pay for water and stuff. So even like in real life, like the water was like hoarded by the wealthier, more powerful people in the community. So so as a result, the palette's very restricted, mostly green and yellow and reds, but so it kind of makes for, and we push the color kind of green also in the so we did end up rushing into shooting because Jay had a window between his seasons of that show, and so we rushed and we shot it, and he ultimately ended up we rushed into it and didn't have enough money to really shoot. Like we all ended up like deferring all our fees and everything just to like get the thing in the can, but then his show got canceled like a couple months later, but But anyways, yeah, it actually, what was good about it though is it did create a sense of urgency, because the problem with these movies is, like, a lot of times people can kind of wait around forever, like, oh, we haven't quite gotten enough money, or we're not quite ready. And but whenever you have an actor availability, a lot of times it kind of provides enough urgency for everybody to just jump on board and pull the trigger. So we had Jay and Dennis attached before we secured the budget. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be pretty common. You're looking for that one name that will draw eyes. And then
and then we got Cheech. Cheech came in.
We got Cheech.
Cheech came in at the 11th hour. Yeah, after we already had. Actually, Cheech came in. We had another actor to play that role, attached to play that role, and we had been shooting for 3 weeks, and that actor then couldn't make it anymore. So Cheech swooped in 2 days before we had to shoot his scenes. And now when you see the movie, it seems like it was written for him, but he's amazing, and he saved us.
Yeah, I mean, that scene where he's talking to Jay about their war experience. To me, said it all. It's we kind of get into this kind of where we have to match up all the bad things that happened to our life and who had it worse. And that scene just brought a lot of clarity to that point.
The Cheech character, Jay, and then the students, how they all had to deal with the kind of the same discrimination. They dealt with it differently, but that, hey, life isn't fair, period. We all got challenges. Fantastic job, Julio.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I felt like that was really important. That's kind of what I was saying at the beginning, was like, I think Cheech's character provides that perspective of, hey man, like, the last generation also dealt with probably worse stuff than what you're dealing with. So let's not give up just yet. Yeah.
I went to the screen at Burbank 16, Alan, and I happened to be in the same screen as Chelsea Rendon, the actress, and Jane Lee Ortiz, who's in the film. And so it was like, man, people are loud in the back. Yeah, she's good, but what's going on? And then at the end, when we walk out, Alan, you see her and all her people, like, oh wow,
that's pretty cool.
That's another fantastic role as well, where you actually listen. It's to me, it's a very patriotic, pro family, pro get up and make stuff happen. And then this female character wanting to be a mother. And this stuff is kind of blasphemous nowadays in PC Hollywood, bro. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, and then you're saying that theater chains actually want this stuff.
Yeah. Well, the theater chains, I think I think theater chains are just practical. They need people to come in and buy tickets. I think a lot of the stuff, the messaging that would make that idea blasphemous, I think is starting at the other end, at the top end of the chain. Sometimes it's and so like there were primarily these two female characters. There was JB's wife, Lucy, and then there's Joe's girlfriend, Daniela, and they represent, they're totally different. Like, Daniela wants to move to the city. She wants to break the rules. She wants to be a writer. She's ambitious, but that's one kind of woman. Like, that's not the only kind of female ambition in the world. Like, Lucy had a different kind of ambition. She wants to have a family, and she wants to, and so I agree with you. That is typically not a storyline that gets any kind of any traction in mainstream movies nowadays. But I tell you what, man. Well, I don't want to spoil endings or whatever, but like that storyline, that plot, her storyline gets like an audible gasp at the end of the movies. A lot of times an applause, the way her life turns out. So I think there's something there that Hollywood's not tapping into sometimes. Really fast, Alan. The crowd went crazy when you had that shot of her with the pregnant bump. Yeah, it went crazy. They love that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Julio, for joining us. The Long Game is in theaters now. It's in all the theaters. You mentioned Cinemark, Regal, and AMC. Please go out, support indie film, and The Long Game is an amazing film to watch. So it's great for everybody. So thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you doing this.
All right, thank you.